Hi, friends. Something I want to discuss today has been on my mind for a while. So, I work a lot in hormones. I work with like midlife women, especially. I do work with men too, but primarily midlife women who are stressed, who want weight loss, who have some health issues going on, and that they're usually in perimenopause. And one of the tools that I use is hormone therapy, specifically bioidentical progesterone. And this has been on my mind for a while because I do carry Dr. Platt's progesterone and I work with Reina Health and Onas Naturals as well. And I've noticed that, especially if someone is not working with me directly, they will buy progesterone and they will then just go off and do their own thing. They won't then continue to reach out for support. So they'll go off and do their own thing and they'll come back a few weeks or a few months later and I'll be like, hey, how did the progesterone go? How's everything going? Like with your perimenopause symptoms or your sleep or whatever it is. And they'll say, oh, I stopped it because I didn't notice it was doing anything. Or I didn't do well on progesterone. I have progesterone intolerance, which is not a real thing. Like it hasn't been confirmed in any studies that progesterone intolerance is a real thing. But regardless, then I'm like, oh, that's funny because I didn't hear from you. Like you didn't reach out to me and ask for like, how do you use this? How do you dose it? Like what I'm getting at is when people start using hormone therapy, it's not like you're going to your doctor and he's giving you a bottle of progesterone pills and he says, okay, take one or two before bed, you'll be grand. And that's rarely the case. You rarely will be grand because it's a bit more complicated and there is a bit more nuance to it. The majority of the time, if someone is using bioidentical progesterone cream, they fare out pretty well. But again, there is bio individualities. Women have different things going on, and your diet really, really influences this as well. Blood sugar fluctuations, glutamate levels from MSG or processed food, or like if you're buying a lot of pickled foods that are not clean, as we'd call them, these can all influence how you're going to respond to progesterone. Again, the majority of people do pretty well, pump in the morning, pump in the evening, and I'm referring to the cream, and they're fine. But then you have these outliers. Then you have this nuance where there's women and they don't do well on low doses of progesterone and they will experience either an adrenaline or an estrogen kickback. So doing a low dose of progesterone, like Dr. John Lee, when he first started talking about progesterone and published his book on bioidentical progesterone, I believe it was in the 70s, he was recommending that women were using 20 milligrams of progesterone, which is very low. And even for some women, the 50 milligram pumps that we see in like Dr. Platt's progesterone, Onas, Rainas, there's a few different progesterones. Make sure you get a really clean progesterone. Minimal ingredients is ideal. But that can be too low a dose for some women where they use it and it will stimulate the adrenaline or it'll stimulate estrogen kickback. And then you will get these symptoms of feeling worse, like worse adrenaline. Your sleep gets worse. Your inflammation gets worse. Your breast tenderness gets worse. You start spotting. And this is a bigger conversation, but usually here it's a case of you need more. You need more. And I've had this conversation with a lot of clients recently, and again, they're clients, so we're speaking regularly and I'm guiding them on everything. And one specific client, if she's listening, she'll know who she is, but I'm like, you need more progesterone. You need more. And then thankfully she trusts me and you need more and more and more. And I think the other night we were up to like 800 or 1,000 milligrams of progesterone she had used in that day. And we were finally hitting that point where we saw her bleeding stop, we saw her symptoms start to improve, we saw her start to feel calmer when she applied the progesterone. But this one woman, she needed a lot. I have other clients that need a lot. I have another client that if we don't use progesterone with her in the first 2 days of her cycle, she wants to like murder people. She wants to kill everyone in sight. Like the rage is real. And then I have another client that as soon as her stress peaks, we immediately need to increase her progesterone because she will start getting a lot of large intestine inflammation. She'll start spotting. Her anxiety will go through the roof. So now, in response to her sensitivity to stress, we need to give her more progesterone. So she's in and around the 600 milligrams a day. So it really varies from woman to woman. Now, if you're taking progesterone and you go off and you do your own thing and you're not following up with me or another practitioner for like guidance, because there is real trial and error here, and now you start responding negatively and you're like, oh, progesterone did nothing, or it made me feel worse, or I had this, that, and the other. Maybe it's because you weren't using it properly. Maybe it's because you were not using enough. Some women, I will get away with 100, sometimes 150 milligrams of progesterone cream, and I feel pretty good. And like I'll add in, I sleep really well, my diet is really good, I take all the supplements, I do the things. Obviously, not trying to say I'm great, but I do a lot of the things that already supports my metabolic and hormonal health. Plus, very importantly, my adrenal health. These are a huge piece of the puzzle. So I don't need a lot of progesterone, but there's some women that need way more, way more. And I have women who are using oral progesterone, they're using it vaginally, they're using it topically. If we can get it sublingually, we will. Like, we'll use it whatever way we can get it because they need so much. So again, if you buy progesterone off me or you get progesterone somewhere and then you come along and you're like, it didn't work for me, it made me feel worse, it made my symptoms worse, this, and this, chances are you were not using enough. And chances are there was something else going on. Either your blood sugars were having an issue, your adrenals are struggling, there is something else going on. You simply cannot just blame the progesterone. We know in all of the literature, and there are thousands of studies on progesterone, and even looking at during pregnancy in the third trimester, we have our highest levels of progesterone. The fetus is exposed to even higher levels than what we have in the third trimester of pregnancy. I believe Carol Peterson mentioned that in the third trimester, the fetus is exposed to 5 to 6 times more progesterone. Like, progesterone is the safest hormone that we have. To hit a point where you would hit like an intolerance or toxicity or side effects is pretty much impossible, especially for the average person, especially for someone who's just using a cream. And even the pills, 100 milligrams is very low dose because if you're taking progesterone orally, by the time it goes through first pass metabolism and gets converted to allopregnanolone, you're really only getting about 30 milligrams, if you're lucky, of progesterone. So that 100 milligram pill or capsule that you're taking is not giving you 100 milligrams of progesterone. It's giving you maybe 30 milligrams of progesterone. This is a consideration. Back to what I said with Dr. John Lee, 30 milligrams of progesterone is very, very low. If you're feeling super groggy the next day and you have cravings, that's not the progesterone, that's the allopregnanolone that it has been converted into. Anyway, I'm rambling now, but there's a lot of considerations. Progesterone is the safest hormone in our body. That's why we can expose the fetus to it in such high amounts. The literature shows us time and time again that babies who are exposed to high amounts of progesterone tend to have less instances of colic, less instances of autism, of ADHD, of sleep disturbances, of all these issues that we would associate with low progesterone. Women that have higher levels of progesterone during pregnancy have an easier pregnancy. They have less issues with preeclampsia, excuse me, pre-gestational diabetes. They have less issues with nausea throughout pregnancy. Like again, progesterone is the safest hormone that we have. There really is no upper limit, but there does seem to be a lower limit that if you're not using enough for some women, you will have problems. You will get this adrenaline, stress hormone, estrogen, a stress hormone in high amounts. You will get these kickbacks where your symptoms will feel worse, or you might start spotting, or you might have a heavier period, or you might have like mid-cycle bleeds, or if you're post-menopause and you haven't had a bleed in like 4 or 5 years. Now you use progesterone because something stressful is happening in your life and you can't sleep, for example, but you start spotting. Now that progesterone is liberating, it's moving trapped estrogen out of your body. Like clearly a bigger conversation here. There seems to be no upper limit to progesterone. The more progesterone you use, the better and better you will feel. The less, now we seem to have issues. Now we seem to have problems. So again, if you take progesterone, if you buy it off me or anyone else and you just go off and do your own thing, and maybe you're just reading the instructions on the back, but still that doesn't say, hey, keep moving up and up and up until all your symptoms are gone. The label does not say that. You're going to have some problems, and then you're going to think, oh, I didn't do well on progesterone. I have progesterone intolerance or progesterone resistance, which may be a thing, but it's rare. Um, this is where I would say you're doing yourself a disservice. Most people know that if you message me, you reach out to me, I will respond. I will answer. I answer everyone, whether you're a client or not. I answer everyone. I will give directions. Just don't go buying progesterone and then assuming it didn't work. Reach out, ask for support. Hey, Shemaine, I've been using progesterone for the last few nights. It's been causing me issues. My sleep is worse. Or hey, Shemaine, I've been using progesterone for a week or two. My period is heavier than ever, or I've started spotting before my period. Whatever it is, reach out. I will answer you. I'm sure there's loads of other practitioners that will. I know if you reach out to Reina Health, they always answer questions, always, even if you just email them directly or comment on their Instagram. If you're in Kitty Martone's group, the Estrogen Dominant Support Group, you can post questions in there, and I've seen every question be answered. Just don't go buying progesterone and then thinking that it made you worse when you maybe weren't using it properly. Obviously, based on my rant, this has been on my mind for a while because it kind of infuriates me because I know how good progesterone is and how good it can make you feel, including improving thyroid function and making your weight loss journey so much easier. Progesterone really is like, it's a miracle hormone. Like God put it in us for a reason. He knew it did nothing but good in us. But when I see people saying like it made them feel worse and they weren't using it correct, then I'm like, you're doing yourself a disservice. Like you should have reached out and asked for help. You should have asked for some guidance because this molecule can make your life and your health journey so much easier and better. So yeah, I needed to get that off my chest. As always, if you have questions, if you have feedback, if you have comments, put it in the comments, reach out to me, message me, email me. I will respond. Thank you for listening. Have a great day, everyone.